Hi, this is Ron Chapman, author of Progressive Recovery Through the 12 Steps, Emotionally Sober for Life. And I'd love to tell you the whole backstory behind this about all the fits and starts and challenges, but it would just distract from the real issue. Probably the one thing worth saying is it did take 30 years, and that was a lot of practice and knowledge gathering and so forth. And the truth of the matter is that one of my longtime mentors says that you wouldn't want to rush these things, which is a perfect description for this. And I myself have been known to say that if it is your life's work, it is going to take your life. And that seems to set the scene about as well as possible because it has become life's work for me. So what do we mean by progressive recovery? Well, in short, we take the 12 steps so many of us know so well, and we look more deeply at the principles and the ways of practicing them so that we can actually take our explorations much more deeply and get down to what we might call root causes, the things that undermine us and set us up for the challenges we face. As a result of that, we're able to get a much better glimpse of the places that were blocked off and find a way to work with it differently, which changes the entire complexion of recovery. The point of this progressive approach is to delve more deeply, apply more deeply, to invoke a progressive power, a higher and higher power, because higher power is progressive, just like the steps, just like the disease we're trying to overcome, just like life in general. It's all progressive and additive. So what we're trying to do is to open up that space so that we can advance our recovery in ways we just couldn't access before. So what about this idea of emotional sobriety, which is often quite misunderstood? It's a phrase coined by Bill Wilson back in 1954 in an article called The Next Frontier, where he looked deep within himself to understand why he still struggled. And what he found, and what he saw was true of all of us, is that we make the mistake of looking outside ourselves for some kind of validation, some kind of acknowledgement, something to make us feel better about ourselves, and that the problem is that we're trying to fix in the outside world something that exists deep within us. So instead, we look inside, looking for the relief and release there, because when the insides clean up, the outsides take care of themselves, which is an extraordinary idea. All the more so because, as best I can tell from my own practice, it's unlimited where we can go with this, which is, my God, that's more than anything any of us ever imagined. What you're going to find in this book is a workbook format with tools and practices designed to help deepen that 12-step work. And the reason this is important is because we've discovered that just reading or hearing is not sufficient to change us on the inside. So what we need is these practices to take up residence in our life. And it is that process which then begins to move us toward progress, sometimes imperceptibly, but sometimes in some rather remarkable ways. Because over time, there's a momentum that comes to it, a momentum that can take us to those places we've just never been able to access before. The issue is that the disease of addiction is progressive. No surprise, we hear that often. One of my mentors compared it to a downward moving escalator headed towards a basement that is filled with danger and problems for us. The challenge is that that escalator is moving so slowly, so imperceptibly, so insidiously, that we don't realize we're losing ground, that we're regressing. We think we're holding our own. At some moment, we suddenly realize that we're in dire straits. We've found our way to the basement, to the bottom, and bad things are beginning to happen, but we don't even know how we got there. Sometimes in that space, we're unable to turn it around. That's where many of our fellows lose their sobriety. At worst, they're bewildered by what has happened to them. So what we're trying to do is to avoid that whole process with a progressive recovery. Much of what you read in this book is my story, or influenced by my story and experiences, or informed by the work that was done with any number of other people, because I certainly didn't do this alone. What you'll read is these collective experiences translated through my best attempt to explain the principles at this deeper level. The truth is that I love how Emmylou Harris describes it, that we stumble into grace, which seems a very, very apt description of this process. So I did have to do it for myself, but as we all hear, we never have to do it alone. Here's the truth as I presently understand it. The less we need meaning from outside ourselves, the less we need validation, attention, approval of any kind, the truer is our path, the truer we are to ourselves. And that allows for each and every step we take, which is how the path is made, to be unique to exactly what we need, trusting that this progressive power will take us to home, whatever that may mean for you or me. Physical sobriety, as it deepens, opens up a way to emotional and psychological sobriety, which in turn opens up an opportunity for spiritual sobriety. That's the deepening process that moves us forward inch by inch, moment by moment, ultimately leading up to a realization of benefits and promises that we just couldn't even imagine in the old ways that we viewed this work. Recovery is a launching pad. It is not a safe haven. As one of my elders told me, Ron, we don't just seek that within us which is uninjured, but that which is uninjurable, which is not just remarkable, it's beyond what most of us could have ever imagined as a possibility for us, and yet that's exactly what the 12 steps are designed to do. This is great cause for gratitude, which we talk about a lot, but there's a deeper realm to probe with this that actually opens up wonder and amazement, which hopefully gives us reason enough to be willing to do the work that is required if we intend to achieve this, and at least to advance our recovery one day, one step, one breath, one moment at a time.
Progressive Recovery through the 12 Steps, Emotionally Sober for Life, is available now.